No one can make an intelligent decision without being properly informed. This is why this world wants to control the media. This is why media hype can take you up, take you down. So you don't know anymore who's really good, because the media can make a wicked man look good and make a good man look evil. That is why.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry about the delay. I'm getting my technical stuff together. I see Sister Tracy is on with some critical commentary, of course. But we're getting it together. We're getting it together. Welcome. You are watching a special edition of the Final Call News Hour. I am your host, Herman Muhammad, as the name says right there. Today, we're going to be coming out of... Let me make sure I got my audio right. We're going to be coming out of the current issue of the Final Call, which is volume 37, number 20, which reads, Saviours Day 2018, Farrakhan speaks. Thousands flocking to Chicago for major address by Nation of Islam minister during annual convention, February 23rd through the 25th in the Windy City. And of course, this story appears on page 3. If you are living in a bubble, living in a vacuum, and you are unable to get the current edition of the Final Call newspaper, you can always go to our digital edition, which you can get at digital.finalcall.com. Again, that's digitalfinalcall.com. And you guys be patient with me. I'm trying to produce and host at the same time. That's how we get down here at the Final Call News Hour tonight. Again, my name is Herman Muhammad. This story appears on page 3 of the current edition of the Final Call newspaper. And let me just read a little bit of it for you, just very briefly, because this is Saviours Day. And for all of you out there who aren't familiar with Saviours Day, let me read a little bit from the paper. And again, this story appears on page 3. Get ready for Saviours Day back in Chicago. And it's written by Sister Starla Muhammad, who's managing editor at the Final Call newspaper, the biggest, baddest, boldest, blackest newspaper on the planet. Chicago, Saviours Day, the annual Nation of Islam celebration and crowning event of Black History Month, is coming back to the Windy City. Thousands of followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, under the leadership of Minister Louis Farrakhan, supporters, dignitaries, family, and friends from around the world will convene February 23rd through 25th for a full weekend of interactive and informative workshops, plenary sessions, and a variety of social events and activities for all ages at the McCormick Convention Center. Capping off the weekend will be the highly anticipated keynote address by Minister Farrakhan on Sunday, February 25th at the new Wintrust Arena. His message will be broadcast live via internet on NOI.org starting at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, and that is 1 o'clock in Denver. And we'll be coming with that information in regards to, I'm trying to add people on while I'm watching, if they want to watch. So Tuan Muhammad is Sister Ladios. Walaikum salam. Good to see you, sister. We're talking about Saviours Day. And of course, I just read a little bit about what's going to happen in Chicago on this coming weekend, the 23rd through the 25th, which is the our annual event. And if you do not know what Saviours Day is, Saviours Day, as the paper states, is the crowning event of Black History Month. Saviours Day is the annual celebration of the birth of who we believe is our Savior. His name is Master W. Farad Muhammad. There's a picture of the God right there. He came July 4th, 1930 to save the black man and woman in America in particular, but really to save all of humanity. We celebrate his birth every year on February the 26th, or right around that time, but his birth date is actually that date, February 26th. Again, he taught the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, that's our dear beloved messenger, Messiah, who in turn taught our beloved leader, who will be giving the keynote address this coming Sunday, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so we just wanted to touch on that very briefly. And we got so many people joining, man. It's an honor to be on Facebook tonight and just to be hollering at my people this wonderful evening about this magnificent day. Again, we're dealing with Saviours Day 2018, where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan will speak. And if you've never been to a Saviours Day convention, man, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, because you, like the paper says, you have thousands of people who are gathering in Chicago for the celebration of a Savior coming to save the black man and woman of America. It's unlike any event that you will ever attend with regards to black people, because there's no drinking, there's no smoking, there's nobody acting a fool. Everybody is just participating, having a good, righteous time. Saviours Day 2018. Now, as everybody is joining, what I wanted to talk about as well, also in addition to Saviours Day, is, and it actually relates. It actually relates. Sylvia's online, Tasha's online, Carrie's online, my sister Waletta is online. Peace to everybody. If you guys want to join in, let me see if I can get you all to where you can join in and chime in on the conversation. Let's see. If you can, be happy to join in and say whatever it is that you want to contribute, and I'll try and read those comments in real time. But again, it's Saviours Day 2018. It's coming up this coming weekend. We'll have a celebration in this city. I don't have a date and I don't have a place as of yet, but we'll make sure that we get that information to you via Facebook and other social media as the hour approaches, which is fast approaching because it is coming up this coming weekend. Jay Burns is in the building. Peace, Jay. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, man, with regards to, and go to, man, if you don't get a chance to come and celebrate with the believers and watch the webcast with the believers, then at least watch the webcast from your own home, from the comfort of your own home. And you can watch it right at noi.org. The Saviours Day broadcast will be broadcast. There's nothing like actually going to Chicago and being amongst the believers, though. I can't sell that short. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about, just briefly, because I don't want to keep us long tonight. The other thing I wanted to talk about is this great movie that just came out, the Black Panther movie, right? And For those of you who are living in a bubble and you're not up on what's going on, Marvel premiered, or they dropped their first, well, no, that's incorrect. They didn't drop their first black superhero movie. This is actually the second major black superhero movie that Marvel has ever dropped. The first one was Blade, right? Blade was a very good movie that had tremendous commercial success, and it starred our brother Wesley Snipes, and that was in the early 2000s. But the Black Panther movie that we want to talk about tonight, there's also an article about it in this edition of the Final Call newspaper. And again, if you haven't seen that current edition, let me show it to you one more time. And you can pick it up at Supreme Style Barbers, located at 7520 East Colfax. If you don't have it, pick up that Final Call newspaper. And let me give you the address to the shop, just in case. And those are the greatest barbers on earth right there. The Supreme Style Barbers, 7520 East Colfax Avenue. You can visit our site if you want to see what we do, astar2.com. But again, we're talking about Saviours Day, and we're talking about the Black Panther movie. Now, the Black Panther movie, Marvel produced, and here's a shot of that we want to talk about. Just opened up this past Friday. They had a pre-screening. On Thursday. It sold a ridiculous amount of tickets. I want to say, walaikum salam, Brother Daniel. Good to see you, brother. Brother Benny's watching. Brother Willie's watching. Assalamu alaikum, family. Happy Saviours Day. Anyway, the movie premiered on this Friday. There was a pre-screening on Thursday. From my understanding, they sold something like $25 million on Thursday. This Marvel movie dealing with the Black Panther, it sold, I heard this morning, over $200 million worth of tickets the first weekend. It shattered the box office with regards to pre-sales before the movie even came out. So it's already it's setting records, and I have to say, despite we got a lot of critics in the black community. Despite what a lot of the critics have said, I have to say it was a very, very good movie. Very, very good movie. And I just want to read something out of the Final Call newspaper because it talks about the Black Panther movie. And this article is written by our beautiful sister who writes out of Los Angeles. She's a national correspondent, Sister Charlene Mohammed, and she can be reached on Twitter at Sis Charlene. And it appears on page 5 of this edition of the Final Call newspaper. Days before its release, the movie about comic book hero Black Panther had inspired a sense of pride, culture, history, and power across generations of blacks in America. Memes, photos with humorous or sarcastic captions, GIFs, animated images, Twitter countdowns, costume party invites, and reserved theaters signaled the high energy, excitement, and just how anxious many were to fill theaters February 16th for the official release. Buzz about Black Panther's cast, costumes, and Wakanda, the fictional kingdom of Africa, has been sweeping the country for more than a year now under the hashtag Black Panther So Lit. Directed by Ryan Coogler, who co-wrote it with Joe Robert Cole, it hosts mostly a black cast, with Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Denai Guerrera, Daniel Kaluuya, Letitia Wright, Winston Duke, Angela Bassett, and Forrest Whitaker. With the exception of Andy Serkis and Martin Freeman, 2 white males, the film's major characters are all black. Mr. Boseman debuted as Black Panther in Marvel's film Captain America Civil War. Now as Prince T'Challa, surrounded by black female warriors, he returns to Wakanda to face an old adversary, Killmonger, played by Mr. Jordan, who challenges him for his father's throne. The character and the storyline are based on a Marvel comic book. Alright, so again, before I get into my Hawk Deezy, good to see you, brother. Hawk Deezy's in the building. Before I get into my critical analysis of Black Panther and why I thought it was a good movie, let me just give you a shot of the Black Panther. That's our brother in his full Black Panther regalia. Again, here is the cast, which was all black with the exception of 2 white cats, who had, you know, decent roles. But man, it was for the most part an all black affair. Now, I have been on social media just a little bit, and since there's so much buzz about the movie, there have been a lot of people who have actually been very critical of the movie. Excuse me while I adjust my unity bow tie. See that Crip blood thing? That's a unity bow tie. Compliments of our brother Daniel Lamar X, who makes bow ties out of Long Beach. But I digress. But there have been people who have been critical because and you know, brothers did some really good analysis on the movie with some very good critical thinking with regards to its true meaning. And you know, one of my brothers, Brother Hasera, I hope he's watching, or if he's not watching, I hope he watches it a little bit later. I watched an analysis that brother did, and he was breaking down the movie so cold and so deep that I couldn't help but to find agreement with him. Now, I didn't agree totally with him, but I did agree that one of the points that he was making was that when Hollywood makes a movie, it's never just a movie. There's always something deeper. There's always something deeper. Quam is in the building. There's always something deeper, right? And the beautiful thing about this whole Black Panther piece was it's so black. The beautiful thing about this whole Black Panther piece is that the roles of black men and black women in the movie were full of pride and dignity. There wasn't no hoes. I mean, there was Michael B. Jordan's character, who came from Oakland in the movie, who, you know, he had a little hood talk, and that's a lot of where a lot of brothers had problems with it, because they felt like the African American representation in the movie was too hood. Now, I get it, and we'll address that. But it was in a fictional country in Africa called Wakanda. But this country was so unique in that it had never been touched by colonial masters. Just think about that for a moment. The country had never been touched by colonial masters. They became rich and powerful and free and independent, and didn't need any outside help because of this mineral that they had called, I believe it was called vibranium. And it's a fictional metal in the comics that Captain America's shield is made of, and everything like that. But they were free and independent. So that's the first thing that's great, right? That's the first thing that's great is that you have a free and independent nation that hasn't been touched by any colonial masters ever in history. Imagine, and that got us to thinking. That got me to thinking. What if black people had never been touched by our colonial slave masters? Where would we be? Where would we be if we still had the technology that our foreparents had when we built the pyramids? Where would we be if we had access to all of the knowledge that were in the libraries of Timbuktu? Where would we be if we still had access to all of the wealth that our ancestor, Brother Mansa Musa, had accumulated so many years ago? Where would we be? How civilized would we be had we never been touched by the colonial masters? So that right there, that, you know, that the fact that Brother Ryan Coogler, who's a 31-year-old black man from Richmond, California, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you listen to him talk, you can tell he's from California. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You know what I'm saying? Michael B. Jordan is his partner. He's been in all of his movies. The brother produced Fruitvale, or directed Fruitvale. That was his first movie, the story about Oscar Grant. Then he directed Creed, the Rocky movie, which was an awesome movie. At 29 years old, he directed that, and then now he's, or 27 or 28, something like that. He directed that. Now at 31, he's directed Black Panther, Marvel's Black Panther, which is quite possibly going to be the largest grossing Marvel movie ever made, right? So these are all reasons to love this movie. Now, the criticism that I heard was, Brother Mark, peace, brother. Love to you too, big brother. And Tawan, Sister Tawan, assalamu alaikum. Brother Harry's in the building. Sister Queens is in the building. Sister Samsara Queens, praise Allah. All right. So these are all reasons to love this movie. Now, the critical piece that Brother Hasser and others have put out there was about their making Killmonger, who's the character that's played by Michael B. Jordan, the villain, right? And Killmonger was actually the cousin of the Black Panther, T'Challa, but his father was killed by T'Challa's father, who's actually, his brother. And I hope I'm not giving away the plot to those of us who have not seen the movie, but I just want to address these issues, right? So Eric B. Jordan's character, he was raised in Oakland. He wasn't raised in his homeland of Africa and Wakanda in this beautiful civilization. He was raised in Oakland. He grew up watching oppression. He grew up watching the Oscar Grants and the Freddie Grays, and as a result, he was jaded. He was hurt, and so his whole thing was to exact revenge, to go back to his native Wakanda, so that he can take the natural resources of Wakanda and give them to all oppressed people so that they could rise up and fight the oppressor. So the critical analysis was like, they're trying to get us to hate the person who fights or who wants to fight the oppressor. And Black Panther, T'Challa, King T'Challa, the brothers felt as though, and this is just my recollection of the things that I've heard and read, they felt as though T'Challa represented misguided black leadership that's trying to keep the status quo, because T'Challa, or his father, who was the Black Panther before him, didn't want the vibranium, the knowledge of the vibranium, the knowledge of Wakanda, any of it to even be let out into the public because he knew that the slave master would come in. But because they were bottled up, being themselves, Saeed, assalamu alaikum, big brother, and Sister Jill, the genie is out of the bottle, absolutely. Because they were bottled up, you know, the people never got access to the technology that the Wakandans had. They never had access to the weaponry that the vibranium was able to produce. And so the critical analysis of brothers who are watching the movie are saying that the white man let the movie out so that we could we would side subconsciously with those who want to keep the status quo going, so to speak. I hope I'm being clear. I hope I'm being clear. But let me say this without giving away everything in the movie. T'Challa and Killmonger, Eric Killmonger, I can't think of his African name. I'm sure it's in the paper. But they were brothers. They really wanted the same thing, but they had different ways of going about it. Killmonger was more revolutionary, more of a you know, he had his hand on the gun, so to speak. And T'Challa was more reserved. But let me say this, because here's what we don't want to do. First off, we got to keep in mind that this is a comic book. This is a comic book. This is a comic book based upon a character that was written by a Caucasian by the name of Stan Lee. Two Caucasians, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, the founders of Marvel Comics. Stan Lee, for whatever reason, wrote the comic book in 1966. And of course, he was inspired by the Black Panther movement and the Black Panthers who were established in the 1960s. Of course, because the character was named Black Panther. The movie, like I said, the brother Michael B. Jordan's character comes out of Oakland, of course. And of course, you're going to use certain things of the time to develop your characters. Now, the character, and I'm a comic book head. You know, I had comic books as a kid, and I loved reading about Black Panther. And you only saw certain, you know, issues of Black Panther. He was in the Fantastic Four and whatnot. There were certain storylines that Stan Lee had to stay away from. If you know the comic book historically, at one point, Black Panther was whooping up on the Ku Klux Klan. The storyline didn't go over with white America, so Stan Lee had to pull back, right? But I'm saying all that to say, it's a comic book character that was developed by a white man. But the reality is, whenever a movie like this comes out and black people see themselves as heroes, particularly black children, you can't have a problem with that. Or you shouldn't have. You can have a problem with whatever you want to have a problem with. Pardon me. But you shouldn't have a problem with that. Because the day before I went to go and see the movie, I had a couple of, you know, black boys in my barbershop, and they were about to play chess. And I related this to a couple of the barbers. I said, man, did you see that? But the young brothers were about to play chess, and they were debating as to which color they wanted to be. And one of the young brothers said, man, I want to be black. That's my favorite color. And I'm going to see Black Panther tonight. See, the reality is, once you have a black hero, once you have black people who are being imagined in the movies as kings and queens and warriors and scholars, our young children see these images. And these images are able to wake them up where we as their parents or as their uncles or as their barbers or as whoever we are, we're not able to. They relate to that imagery that they see on the movie better than they relate to their parents or their teachers or their preachers sometimes. And Jay Barnes said a positive image with a wicked message in a wolf is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Now, I don't know what you mean by that, brother, but maybe you could explain yourself a little bit earlier. But this is what I'm trying to say. So we can say that there's some wicked imagery in Black Panther. You could point that out and say that the African American brother Michael B. Jordan was portrayed in a way that might not be the best. He was a killer. He was kind of hood, you know, and the African brother T'Challa was definitely more civilized, and he was raised as royalty. But here's the thing. I didn't see Michael B. Jordan's character as bad. And maybe it's because I'm looking through the lens of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I didn't see his character as bad. I didn't really even see him as a villain. I saw him as being a more complex. This is a true story. And we've been going for a little while, but I'm not going to be too long. True story. As a young follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when I came into the Nation of Islam, that was about 28 years ago. And at the time, when we learned Black history, the only persons that we learned about was Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. You might hear a little bit about these student nonviolent coordinating community and whatnot, but those were the two major leaders that we learned about: Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Before we learned about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, their predecessors back in the early 1900s were W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington. Right? My point about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and me being a young Muslim was that when I came into the nation, I didn't like Martin Luther King Jr. This is my confession. I didn't like Martin Luther King Jr. because I thought he was soft. I thought that he was, that whole nonviolent thing, the whole I have a dream piece, it just didn't appeal to me. I thought that he was kind of a sellout. But as I grew in knowledge, as I grew in wisdom, as I grew in understanding, as I began to listen and follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan more and more, I learned to love Dr. Martin Luther King. And the reason being is because I only didn't like Martin Luther King because I didn't really understand him and I really didn't know him fully. I was trapped in the I have a dream speech. But I didn't know about the Martin Luther King who was fighting against our people going into Vietnam. I didn't know about the Martin Luther King who was fighting on behalf of the poor people. I didn't know about the Martin Luther King who later on in his life said that he felt that he was integrating his people into a burning house. I didn't understand the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. who was a proponent of reparations for black people. I didn't understand. But Malcolm X and Martin Luther King really wanted the same things. They just was going about it in two different ways. And brother said Marcus Garvey, we can't forget about Big Woo Wonderful. Said we can't forget about Marcus Garvey, and you absolutely cannot forget about Marcus Garvey, the honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. But I'm just using Martin Luther King and Malcolm X as an example. Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. They preceded me in terms of my knowledge of them and what they really wanted, but I understood in reading the history that they didn't like one another, and that they both had their own side. They both had their own team, right? W.E.B. Du Bois was talking about the talented 10th, and he was talking about getting into politics and education, whereas Booker T. Washington was talking about cultivating the land and agriculture. But in reality, in hindsight, they were really trying to get to the same place. So I can't have a problem with Booker T. Washington or W.E.B. Du Bois. I gotta love them both. I can't have a problem with Dr. Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. Look, man, I love them both for the contribution and for what they wanted to do for our people. I can't have a problem with Noble Drew Ali and the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I gotta love them both because they both wanted our people to be free. They were going about it in different ways. And so, likewise, on a fictional level, because Black Panther is a fictional movie. It's based upon a comic book. I can't have a problem with T'Challa, nor can I have a problem with Killmonger, because they both wanted the same thing. And the way I saw it as I was watching the movie, it seemed like they came to that resolution. Killmonger at the end, he just couldn't live without having it his way, because he felt as though he was right. But they both wanted the same thing. Now I can go into the movie a little bit more, but I don't wanna. I just suffice it to say the imagery was powerful. I love the whole movie conceptually, and there's so much more that I could say about the movie, but conceptually I love the whole movie because that whole Wakanda piece, brothers and sisters, that whole Wakanda piece that was imagined by that brother Ryan Coogler and the writers of this movie is something that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been trying to build since 1930. Here's a picture of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You hear what I'm saying? That's something that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been trying to build since 1930. It's something that that's why we say we believe in, and Jay Barnes is there's no such thing as a clean glass of water when a dirty white hand has been all in it. I don't understand, brother. I really don't understand your comment. I wish you could articulate it a little bit clearly, because like I said, black man didn't write the comic book. A white man wrote it. So I mean, you could blacken it up only so much. You know what I'm saying? We could put our twist on it only so much, but understand that originally the story was from a white man, from a Caucasian, Stan Lee. But anyway, back to my point about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and this whole Wakanda piece. This visualization of having a place that you could call your own. This visualization of having a place where your women are respected and protected and regal and noble. The visualization of having a place where your men are men and your women are women. Man, it don't get no better than the imagery that we just saw in Black Panther. So it reminds me of where we're going this weekend, this coming out weekend, and that is to Saviours Day, because a Savior came. There's a picture of the Savior again, Master Farad Muhammad, and this is where we're going. Saviours Day 2018, where the real, I won't call him a king, because we don't have no kings in Islam. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, like his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Farad Muhammad, is a god. And let me just say something about being a god, and hopefully you all can understand this too. Hopefully you can understand this, because we don't have any kings in Islam. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that every time I look at a black man, I'm looking at God. And that's crucial, because I don't want to be a king. I know some of you might have an issue with that. Like, brother, what? You don't want to be a king? No, because a king has to have subjects. A king has to have persons that are up underneath them. A queen as well. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said every time I look at a black man or a black woman, I'm looking at God. See, God is a possessor of power and force. And when I'm looking at a fellow God, man, I gotta look at you as an equal, but I have to treat you with reverence and respect. And so that's why, you know, even though I don't agree with all of the criticism, the negative criticisms that's been leveled at the Black Panther movie, I still respect the fact that brothers and sisters have their own opinions about it. I still respect it, and I honor that, the fact that you can have that opinion. I just don't necessarily agree. Big Woo Wonderful says, if I'm correct, that same year, months apart, the Black Panther Party began. Yes, sir. I believe so. Brother Saeed said Ethiopia has never been colonized. They act like it, Brother Saeed. I don't know. Sister Jill says, let me read. It really does not matter where the comic book came from. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the author of our projection towards independence. Master Farad Muhammad told us we buried our advanced civilizations. Man, this is reality. And I agree 1000%. We absolutely buried our advanced civilization. And, you know, there's technology like Keynote, my man Keynote. There's technology like they had in Wakanda, believe it or not. You know what I'm saying? There's man, I don't want to get into that. Hopefully, maybe the minister touch on that this Saviours Day. But we do have civilization and technology and education that no eye has ever seen. Right? And inshallah, God willing, that will be coming forward very soon. But again, I love the Black Panther movie. I might even see it again. And Jay Barnes, we could build, man, and you could tell me what your thoughts are on the movie, because apparently you don't agree with me, but that's cool. Like I said, I respect your opinion. I respect everybody's opinion. Sister Ladio said, do you think there's actually a place in Africa that exists like Wakanda? I don't know if there's a place like Wakanda. Wakanda was pretty freaking impressive. But, you know, I think that if we married what we know in America with the resources that they have in Wakanda, oh, we can absolutely have a place like Wakanda. But that's it, fam. Again, pick up, listen. Current issue of the Final Call newspaper, Saviours Day 2018. Farrakhan speaks. I'm gonna be in Chicago, God willing. If you can't get it, well, you can get it. Come to Supreme Style Barbershop, 7520 East Colfax Avenue. Visit our site at astar2.com. Right? What else? If you can't make it there, if you're watching from a far off distant land and you don't have any FOI in your city, any fruit of Islam, then you can always get the Final Call digitally. Go to digital.finalcall.com and pick up your edition of the Final Call newspaper. That's it, fam. That's it. Look, I want to say happy Saviours Day. I love you all. I hope to see you very soon. Remember, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And when you look at the Black Panther movies, I mean, I love the movie, honestly. I'm going to be full disclosure, because it reminds me of the Nation of Islam. Them sisters hitting them spears. Look, that reminded me of our beautiful Vanguard, who we're gonna lay eyes on in Chicago in just a few days. It reminds me of the MGT, you know, that military structure that T'Challa and the Black Panther had with his people. Man, that remind me of the Nation of Islam. You know what I'm saying? I can't get away from it. So, but that's it, family. Love y'all. Remember, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Peace. We out. Y'all be good. Y'all stay black. Y'all stay strong. We out.
No one can make an intelligent decision without being properly informed. This is why this world wants to control the media. This is why media hype can take you up, take you down. So you don't know anymore who's really good, because the media can make a wicked man look good and make a good man look evil. That is